The California In-Home Supportive Services Program, better known as IHSS, makes it possible for you to remain safely in your own home, where you can enjoy personal freedom and independence, and continue being a part of your community. The purpose of this video is to provide both you and your provider with information on how to correctly complete a timesheet for the Case Management Information and Payrolling System, also known as CMIPS-2. With this new statewide payrolling system, CMIPS-2 timesheets are no longer processed at your county IHSS office. Instead, they are scanned into an automated computer system at the timesheet processing facility in Chico, California. This means that CMIPS-2 timesheets are not viewed by a live person, so special care must be taken to fill out timesheets correctly to avoid payment delays. In this video, we will help you and your provider learn how to correctly complete a CMIPS-2 timesheet, understand general timesheet processing information and timesheet responsibilities for both the IHSS recipient and provider, and prevent common CMIPS-2 timesheet mistakes that can delay provider payment. Let's begin by reviewing the 14 important steps that you and your provider need to follow to correctly complete and submit a CMIPS-2 timesheet to avoid payment delays. 1. As the provider, make sure you and your recipient are clear on how many hours you worked before you sign the timesheet. If you do not agree with the number of hours you actually worked, do not sign the timesheet. 2. You may only enter time spent doing authorized services that you specifically worked. You will receive a letter from your county IHSS office explaining your recipient's authorized services for the entire month. This letter is called the IHSS Provider Notification. Remember, you will not be paid more than the number of hours authorized for your recipient. If you also provide care for additional IHSS recipients, you will need to fill out and submit a separate timesheet for each recipient. 3. Do not write over pre-printed information or alter the timesheet in any way, including changing pay periods, dates, names, remaining hours, or folding the timesheet. 4. One major change in CMIPS-2 is that you must only use black ink when filling out your timesheet. Some examples of things you cannot use are a pencil, red ink, or blue ink. You also cannot use correction tape or fluid to fix an entry. If you make a mistake, you should neatly cross out what is wrong and neatly enter the correct information. 5. Timesheets are only valid for the person and pay period listed. Do not cross out or change the names or pay periods in the boxes at the top of the timesheet. Do not write anywhere on the timesheet except in areas designated for hours, minutes, signatures, and dates. If you make a mistake, do not initial the correction. Neatly cross out the wrong number and enter the correct number. Write only one number per box and stay within the lines. It is suggested that you test your pen before completing your timesheet and press down firmly so the writing can be read by the equipment used for timesheet processing. 6. If you did not work on a certain day, you should leave the box for that day blank. Also, on CMIPS-2 timesheets, you should not write over pre-printed zeros, as this may cause extra delays in processing your timesheet. Pre-printed zeros may exist in instances where you began working in the middle of the pay period, and the boxes prior to your start date have zeros entered into them. If you mistakenly write over pre-printed zeros, you will need to contact your county IHSS office to request a new timesheet. 7. Another major change in CMIPS-2 is that you must write in the time you worked in hours and minutes each day. The good news is that you no longer need to change minutes to decimals. For example, if you worked 4 hours and 45 minutes, you would enter 4 in the hours box and 45 in the minutes box. There is a box provided for each number. Please write neatly, clearly, and press down firmly with only a black ink pen. 8. When the pay period is complete, you should add up and then enter the total hours you worked for the pay period in the total box. Make sure you have correctly entered your daily hours and minutes worked. You should write neatly, clearly, and press down firmly with a black ink pen. If the numbers are hard to read, your paycheck may be delayed. 9. Both you and your recipient must sign and date the timesheet. Timesheet submitted without both signatures will be rejected for payment, and another timesheet will have to be resubmitted. This will cause a delay in receiving your paycheck. These signatures and dates must also be after the pay period for which the work was done, and the timesheet cannot be submitted before the last day in the pay period. Finally, remember the space for the recipient and provider signatures is on the back of the CMIPS-2 timesheets, and never sign an incorrect or blank timesheet. 10. You should gently tear the timesheet from your pay stub along the dotted lines. Please be careful not to tear off important information, such as signatures, hours, or dates. If this happens, it will delay your payment as you will need to request a new timesheet from your county IHSS office, and then complete and submit a new timesheet. When you separate your timesheet from the pay stub, you should be careful not to make any other tears to either document. 11. Once your timesheet is complete, you should make a copy of the timesheet and mail the original to be processed. After you've sent in your timesheet for processing, you should receive your paycheck within 10 working days of receipt by the timesheet processing facility. Remember, your CMIPS-2 timesheets are not viewed by a live person. They are computer scanned, so any of the above-mentioned mistakes may delay your payment. Please review your timesheet for errors before sending it to the timesheet processing facility. 12. You should not submit any additional documents with your timesheet, such as change of address forms, Post-it notes, information for your county IHSS office, or any other legal documents such as copies of death certificates, Social Security cards, or driver's licenses. These types of documents should be mailed directly to your county IHSS office. The timesheet processing facility will not process any other information. If you send any additional documents intended for your county IHSS office, there will be a delay in your county receiving them. 13. Timesheets are due as soon as possible after the 15th and the last day of each month. You should mail your timesheets to the timesheet processing facility located in Chico, California. This address is located on the timesheet envelope. If you lose your return envelope, the timesheet processing facility address is also located on the back of your timesheet above the signature line. It is important to note that CMIPS-2 timesheets will no longer be processed at the county IHSS office. 14. If you move, you must contact your county IHSS office or public authority to request an address change form. You must complete and return this form to the county IHSS payroll office within 10 days of moving. IHSS paychecks will not be forwarded by the post office. If the payroll system does not have your correct address, your paycheck will be returned to the state controller's office as undeliverable. If you follow these 14 steps in completing your CMIPS-2 timesheet, you can avoid unnecessary payment delays. Remember, your CMIPS-2 timesheets are no longer viewed by a live person. They are computer scanned, and any of the above-mentioned mistakes may delay your payment. The IHSS recipient employer is responsible for verifying the number of hours a provider works each day for them. As the employer, you should be checking to make sure the correct number of hours is entered correctly on the timesheets to avoid payment delays. Here are some reminders and suggestions to help you complete the timesheet submission process. There are 2 pay periods in a month, the 1st through the 15th and the 16th through the last day of the month. When your provider begins working, a blank timesheet will be provided for their use until their first paycheck arrives. After that, they will receive pre-printed timesheets that will be attached to the bottom of their paycheck. Once your provider has worked for you for a period of 2 weeks, it is now time to verify and approve the hours worked for payment. If you have more than one provider, you will need to decide how many hours each provider should work each month. It is your responsibility to let each provider know how many hours are assigned to them. You must also complete Form SOC 838, the IHSS Recipient Request for Assignment of Authorized Hours to Providers form. The purpose of this form is to designate the number of hours assigned to each of your providers. Make sure you and your providers are clear on the number of hours of work for each day of the week. Also, ensure that each of your providers know their share of the hours allotted for the entire month and do not exceed that amount. If multiple providers claim more than your total allotted hours, their paychecks will be reduced. If you need help with this process, contact your county IHSS office. The authorized hours should be spread throughout the month to ensure that your care needs are met. In most cases, hours worked the first half of the month should be about half of your total hours. You may use a calendar or other tool to record the amount of time worked by your providers. One way to record hours accurately is to write down the number of hours worked each time your provider works for you. Before signing the timesheet, compare the hours your provider has written on their timesheet with your records to make sure they included only the actual hours worked. And remember, providers are only eligible to be paid for the authorized hours they worked. As a helpful reminder, the following are some of the most common CMIPS-2 timesheet mistakes to avoid. Timesheet is sent to the county IHSS office. Information is left out. The back of the timesheet is not signed and dated by both the recipient and the provider. Using a pencil, any color of ink other than black, or correction tape or fluid to fill out or correct the timesheet. The numbers cannot be read as they have not been written firmly enough to be properly scanned. The number of hours worked is not properly written in the correct box on the timesheet. The number written in the box was an error, and the provider did not correct the number properly. Provider's initial timesheet corrections. Providers tear off necessary information from the timesheet while detaching the perforated area from the pay stub. The timesheet is mailed before the last day worked in the pay period. More hours are claimed than were authorized for payment. Including extra documents with the timesheet. Writing on the timesheet anywhere other than the signature area and the time entry boxes. The time entry boxes are to be used for numbers only. Crossing out or writing over pre-printed zeros. Folding or otherwise altering the timesheet. Making any of these mistakes may cause a delay in payment because the timesheet will be returned for corrections, and you will need to request a new timesheet from your county IHSS office. We hope this video has helped you and your provider better understand how to correctly complete a CMIPS-2 timesheet and how to avoid timesheet mistakes and payment delays. Please remember to use the following timesheet resources in order to avoid payment delays. The 14 necessary steps to correctly complete a CMIPS-2 timesheet. The additional tips to avoid CMIPS-2 timesheet problems, and examples of the most common CMIPS-2 timesheet mistakes to avoid. Not only will correctly completing a CMIPS-2 timesheet help your provider receive timely payment, more importantly, it will prevent any unnecessary delays in your IHSS program services. After viewing this video, if you have additional questions about how to correctly complete a CMIPS-2 timesheet, contact your county IHSS office or public authority. Or you can visit the California Department of Social Services website at www.cdss.ca.gov.